Javier Mercedes is helping you create better videos. He's got clean and easily digestible tutorials to make you a better video editor. I've been using Adobe Premiere for over 8 years, and I still learned plenty of new things from Mr. Mercedes. Did you know that you can highlight a part of the timeline that you want to export by pressing the question mark key? Crazy, I know, I had no idea, but this guy's got plenty of more interesting things to say than just telling you about the magic of the question mark key. He has only been active on his YouTube channel for about 4 years, but that hasn't stopped him from getting 150,000 subscribers and over 10.5 million total channel views. He has only been active on YouTube for about 4 years, but that hasn't stopped him from getting 150,000 subscribers and over 10.5 million total channel views. This being the Video Creator Show. I'll talk to Javier about how he did it and what exactly went into getting that silver play button and much more. Javier, how you doing today?
I am doing so swell. Thank you so much for the great intro. I actually didn't know how many channel views I had on my channel.
Yeah, that's one thing I like to do is just kind of give the numbers. I think, you know, when you've been posting to YouTube for a while, you kind of don't pay attention to the analytics as much, at least like the cumulative analytics. And it's fun to just like read it out and see people's faces. They're like, oh my God, I guess I have gotten that many views. I must have done something right. So speaking of doing things right, so you have this channel, Javier Mercedes, and you mostly post video tutorials, and they're very clean tutorials. They're mostly about Premiere Pro, either Audition or After Effects, and I've learned a lot. So like, why did you start this channel, and how have your goals with it evolved over time?
Yeah, so if you look at the very beginning of my channel, it started out there's like a couple videos like any other YouTube channel where it's like back in 2012, there was something that I uploaded to YouTube. But when I actually like started to post to YouTube, I was a cooking channel and I was cooking my way through Gordon Ramsay's cookbook. And I quickly realized that I do love cooking and I love learning from this cookbook, but this isn't the kind of content that I want to make forever. I would like to give that to somebody else that's way more passionate about both cooking and also creating the content around it. And at the time, I was a audio engineer, which is what I went to school for, and I was dabbling in video. I was in Atlanta for about 4 years, and I worked at a professional recording studio, and I got to work with a lot of really cool people. Among some of them were people like Morgan Freeman. I recorded a past US president. The Property Brothers, I worked for them for a summer. And all of this was just recording something called ADR, which is, and don't quote me on this, but I believe it's audio dialogue replacement. It might be something different. But what they do is they come into a recording studio and they record either their voiceover or they re-record audio lines to picture. So say there was like an ambulance or an airplane going over while they did a really good take and the director wanted to keep that take, but the audio was scruffed in some sort of way. So they would come to the studio, we would re-record these lines as they're looking to the picture, and then I would send off that audio to some post-production facility in LA. That's kind of how I got my start in video. And then fast forward 4 years after doing that, it was an awesome gig, got to meet a lot of great people and kind of get into the post-production realm. It didn't really pay that well though. So I had a brother who was the head of Chive Charities, and that's kind of the charity aspect of a website called The Chive. And my brother, I moved to Austin, Texas, and it was on the whim that I was just going to start freelancing in video. I was just going to take weddings or whatever it may be. When I was in Atlanta, I started to kind of dabble in freelance video. And at that time, I just like had a little DSLR like anybody else. It was the Canon 7D. And I was like, whoa, you can get like shallow depth of field really easy or cheap and make it look like a Hollywood film. And then when I was moving to Austin, Texas, my brother like kind of put my name in the hat for this position at the Chive just as another video guy. And for those that don't know, the Chive is a website that does a lot of different things. There's anything from like, you could see in like an Instagram model type of material on there, but they also do a lot of like, say it's like a comedy bit, or it'll be a product review or something like that. And when I got hired, it was like the other version of going to college, but for multimedia, especially on the internet, because they just specialized in doing content for, at that time, the internet. Social media was kind of like a big thing, but it wasn't as big as it is now. Back then, it was like the blogosphere. And when I started out, it was me and one other guy. And that other guy, Andy Fenberg, I'll name him because he's basically the guy that like taught me a lot of what I know about Premiere Pro. I came from a background of audio editing, which really helped me when it came to the theoretical aspects of just editing in general. But I could apply a lot of those concepts to video editing once I grasped the kind of intricacies of something like a video editor such as Premiere Pro. The cool thing about when I was working at the Chive, I ended up working there for about 4 years, is, like I said, it was like a multimedia company. So one day I'd be working on a beauty reel, then I'd be shooting a music video. The next day I'd be producing a charity piece for like my brother to help raise millions of dollars for like these really, really orphaned causes where it's like a kid has some sort of rare medical disease that only like 2 people on the planet have. Then you would go to making like a sponsored piece of content for like Budweiser or something like that. And this is week in, week out, creating content in a variety of different genres. And that's where I really got the chops for video editing, and also not really just one specific genre, but because I had to go week to week, having different project to different project, I got to experience a lot of different things quickly. And since it was for the internet, you get to see exactly what works, what isn't working, because you have those analytics available to you. Fast forward about 4 years after I'm working at the Chive, we've gone from 2 people, which is just me and Andy, to about a production department of 20 people. And during that time period, I had a couple other video editors underneath me. And anytime a video editor would come on to the Chive, I would get to train them in how we kind of structure our productions. Now, all of these people are amazing editors, but I would just go through and show them, all right, here's how we archive a video. Here's how we would create our sessions before we even ingest footage, so it's a fluid motion throughout the production process, from pre to actual production to post-production and forward. How would you create the snackable content on top of the feature piece of content? And what I mean by that is you have like maybe, it's crazy because before people didn't really think about the idea of creating a longer form YouTube video and then chopping it down into, well, you got to have your Instagram and Facebook and now TikTok versions of that, and you can kind of get more pieces of material out of it. Like at that point in time, it was kind of at the precipice of doing all of that. And whenever I would train these video editors that would come into our department, they would always make this remark after maybe like a week or two just shadowing me and then like releasing them to whatever they needed to do in the company. They would always say like, oh my gosh, Javier, thank you so much for teaching me X, Y, and Z about Premiere Pro. I'm so much of a better editor because of this. And I don't say that to like toot my own horn. To me, that was the moment that I was doing those Gordon Ramsay videos, but then kind of trickled into there. I would start doing video editing tutorials. And once the people that I was training, every single one of them would make some sort of comment like that to me, I had a light bulb go off of like, man, if every single one of these people that I train gets the through the way that I'm training them, they get the concepts quicker, or they just sticks with them and they're a faster and more efficient editor because of it. That's probably a good sign that a trait like this is scalable. And the place where you could scale something like this is YouTube. So, like I said, fast forward those 4 years into working at the Chive, I've got way more experience underneath my belt. And also, on top of actually video editing, I have the teaching experience of actually trying to teach people in person the different methods of how I would edit things. I won't say like it's the perfect or best way to do it, but like this is how I would do these things. And it came to a point where I saw like a couple cents hit my YouTube account, and I think I didn't go full-time on YouTube, but I quit my full-time job, and I didn't realize this until like a couple months ago, but I quit my full-time job when I was underneath 1,000 subscribers. But just from seeing the proof of concept of seeing a couple cents hit my account, in knowing that this is possible, that you can make a living doing something like this. And the quickest and best way for me is to just see and pursue, what does this look like? So there was one day that I just came into the Chive and I'm bawling, I'm crying, and I'm like, hi guys, I want to see what happens if I just pursue this, and like what will happen, you know? And thankfully to them, and like very good for my situation, they were completely understanding, and they like gave me a couple pieces of equipment that was like older that they weren't going to be using.
Wow.
They also like gave me a video monitor, a computer monitor. They let me keep my laptop. So like startup costs for actually starting my channel in terms of taking it seriously was kind of helped out immensely by that. And then I would say in the beginning stages of my YouTube channel, I was still working in a freelance capacity very much for the Chive. And because I was freelance, I was able to pick up other gigs that people were recommending to me and like throwing my name in the hat. So I got to work for people like ABC, ESPN, and CBS on like actually having my stuff broadcast on national television, which... yeah, it was really cool to see go from a video editor at a media company that could probably be the same kind of production department as something that's like BuzzFeed for more people that would know that website. We didn't make like BuzzFeed content, but in terms of what we're producing and how we're producing content on the back end, it's probably more relatable to that. Going from that kind of video editor to producing hour-long documentaries on like sports stuff for like ESPN it was kind of cool to see that I could make everything translate from what I've learned through previous years, and also get the experience of that. Now, fast forward about a year and a half into doing, or just like trying to do YouTube as much as full-time as possible, I now have a foundation underneath me of contacts that will say, hey, are you available to do such and such if we like fly you out here to LA to just like sit in a room with other video editors to work on this thing for like an ESPN or whatever. Or I am trying to just really sit down and put my head down and just do YouTube videos. And what I would do most of the time is do a really big editing gig that has a fat paycheck, and then have that bankroll my living expenses until I could like create like maybe 3 more YouTube videos in a month without having to take on any other freelance gigs. But fast forward even further, then it kind of flipped on its head. And now at this point in time, I've stopped taking on freelance gigs, and all of that time has been supplemented by doing sponsored content, which in essence is almost the exact same as what I was doing before. But now, so before I would be editing a video as a part of an entity or a company or a production studio and producing a piece of content for whatever that entity is doing. Say it's like that the ESPNs and they're creating like some sort of documentary or something like that. But now on the flip side, I'm still doing like pieces of content and it's sponsored. And now instead of answering to a producer that's creating something in that realm, now I'm answering to a producer that's answering to a company. And at this point, creatively, I can kind of make whatever I want to as long as it's in agreement to whatever company that I'm working with. It's kind of weird to think of it in that perspective, but the time allocated to both those things is the exact same, except now it's like all for myself on behalf of another company. And in doing this, you can elevate both brands because you're bringing awareness to whatever brand that you're sponsoring, as well as to yourself, because that brand is probably buying ads to like put your face in front of whatever the piece of content that you made for them. That's like a very, very shotgun approach. Hopefully I made that short enough to like
that was fascinating. I always like to hear people's origin
now.
stories, and I feel like we really got the rundown there. So okay, you're at a point where YouTube is really paying the bills for you. You have sponsorships. Can you walk us through like how you personally do sponsorships on your channel? Because a lot of people do them very differently. So do you tend to have like a few sponsors that you have a long-term relationship with? Do you tend to just kind of get a bunch of sponsors and just sort of pitch them one-off? Or like how do you personally do sponsors on your channel?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because I was in the same boat thinking like, how does this work? Like even just like 6 months ago or like a little bit further back. The one thing that helped me in the very beginning, and this is specific to my channel, or I guess unique to my situation, is that I am very niched down into, at this point, I'm very niched down into Premiere Pro as the bulk of the content that comes out on my channel. I think because of that, when sponsors approach me, they know exactly what they're getting and they have a general idea of what kind of audience would watch my material. It's probably a video editor. So if you have any kind of product that would benefit somebody who creates videos, my channel would probably be a magnifying glass into that crowd. Now, that being said, I know there's other creators out there that have a more variety style of content, and maybe they get emails inbound from other sponsors. But how I started was I got a couple different emails from different people, different entities, and like some of them were just like product reviews and other things like that, and it was maybe free product. I didn't really answer those emails, or I would respond and be like, I'm not interested, because I just like, literally, I wasn't interested. If I did a product review on a specific kind of product, say it be a microphone, and I actually enjoy and like that microphone. So like the one that I'm speaking into right now is a Sennheiser one. And like, I really like this microphone. I used to have I still do have my Shure SM7B. And if somebody wants me to do a microphone review, then I part of me is just like, I don't know, if I'm talking to somebody and if it's like a budget thing, then I can recommend X, Y, and Z. Or if you just want whatever I would actually recommend, here are these recommendations. So I have a video on my channel that's just literally goes through all of these different budgeted microphones. And in that, I basically just like spell out everything that I would probably recommend to you as a microphone. And the opinion kind of hasn't changed. So if somebody does like approach me to do something like that, I'm like, I don't know, maybe, but for the most part, my mind's already kind of still made up. If it's a camera thing, it's a little different. But in terms of other sponsorships, the one that kind of stuck out to me is when Adobe reached out to me 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and they wanted me to be a part of Adobe Max. And that obviously, since I do stuff for Premiere Pro, I was like, oh, here's the actual company that it makes the thing that I create content around. So it was kind of a no-brainer. And not only that, but the amount that they pay creators it was like they actually respected my time and what I could bring to the table and what I was doing with them. I will say that about Adobe is like they actually like pay their creators and they pay attention and all of that stuff. So in terms of the very first like legit sponsorship that I had, it was Adobe, which is, I don't know if that's the same as other creators, if there's like other smaller brands that people may have not heard of. But in my circumstance, I was maybe getting an email or two inbound from other companies. And then all of a sudden, when I get this one from Adobe, it was my kind of trial by fire first sponsorship deal that like, oh, here's a contract. Here's like, just like reading everything and then learning how this whole thing works. After I got the Adobe one, it gave me such a better benchmark of what doing material for another brand
could you walk us through like what that contract was? You don't need to go into specific payment numbers, of course, unless you really want to, but like, so what did they expect out of you when they were like, Javier, we want you?
Oh yeah it's different. So I at this point I've been working with them for about like 3 years, and it's different depending on the project. So for that particular one, it was for Adobe Max. So they wanted me to do 2 YouTube videos and some other like Instagram things and like just enjoying like their live streams for a couple of the events. And I think that was about it. But in terms of how much time it would take, like I'm making 2 YouTube videos on, one of them was Premiere Pro, like just updates and things like that. And the other one was awareness. So bringing awareness to just Adobe Max in general. The one with Premiere Pro was like, this is probably a piece of content that I would make anyway. And now I'm getting first access to the program before it's even released to the public. So at this point, it's actually like it's mutual benefit for me and the company that I'm creating stuff for Premiere Pro. If somebody sees my content, then they know that I spend like all day in this program. So I would hope that they would trust what I have to say about whatever the new update or anything like that is. And that's one of the things that I love about Adobe is they like, a lot of people make memes about Premiere Pro, but like in their meetings and everything, like they want my criticism. And I actually explain all the different things that like, hey, it would be awesome if we could fix this and this and this. And then when I'm recording the video, they're like, yeah, you can leave that. Like they want that stuff in there, which is super cool for a company to do, right? So in terms of the scope of what's expected from me for that particular instance was like 2 YouTube videos, popping into some live streams, some like IG promotion. It's more about bringing awareness to both Premiere Pro and Adobe Max. And I would say anything that I do with Adobe is kind of along those lines, where if they have a new piece of, if they have a new update coming out, or if there's something that they want to bring awareness to within the whole Adobe sphere, they'll contact people like me who do tutorials for their different programs, and they'll be like, hey, can you do like a minute little thing about like Adobe Max in the middle of one of your videos, that kind of thing, which in the context, again, of my very niched down channel, it makes complete sense. Like that is a happy marriage between brand and, I don't want to say influencer, but like the creator. A different one that I recently just did was AT&T, and that one was something completely different where they contacted me because they wanted to just utilize an Instagram campaign. And I was like, first I was amazed because like I have, like you said, 150 subscriber or 150K subscribers on YouTube, but I only have like 3,000 followers on Instagram compared to like somebody else that if you were looking to do a Instagram campaign, like I don't, at first I didn't really understand, but then I realized that they picked 4 creators to do this like kind of creator series where each week they would create a piece of content and they would give you a prompt and they'd be like, all right, create something that has to do with rhythm and flow, or create something that's a tabletop commercial. So that one was also really cool, and I could accept it. One, because it's like, if you do stuff for bigger brands like an AT&T or Adobe, you can prove that like, oh, hey, I've worked with this brand. Other brands will know that, okay, this person is somebody that we can probably respect and work with in our own capacity because they have already worked with another big brand. But in that one, it was like, do X, Y, and Z, but really just like, we're giving you these prompts and then it's just the thing sponsored by AT&T, which again, a happy marriage between a content creator and the business. Like, it was cool because you had to get creative in what you were creating in that capacity, and just how you would incorporate whatever the theme was, but also on top of their colors are blue. So they were like, oh, could you do this, but maybe like just use blue, you know? And which to me was actually a cool challenge, because in the more you restrict things in that regard, it actually forces you to become more creative, because you're kind of setting up a set of rules. And if you have a set of rules, then you can kind of like, all right, with this, how can I get creative to make what both I am proud of and what would do what they're looking for.
There's something about having to work within certain parameters that actually can make you more creative. You know, I think when people start their YouTube journey, the whole idea is you want to do whatever you want all the time, but sometimes it really can be a blessing to have some real guidelines and some things that you have to do. And in your case, especially when it's helping pay the bills and get you through the week and the month and everything, why not, you know? And okay, so you have some very legit sponsors, whether it's AT&T or Adobe themselves. You have been able to monetize your channel quite well. And so, and as far as like getting to the 150,000 subscriber mark, how often would you say that you post, and how many hours a week do you on average put into it these days?
So, you know, I would say consistency. This is a very, very cliche thing to say. Somebody actually, when I hit 100K subscribers, like some person that I didn't know tweeted at me, like asking, like, how did you get, like, what's a piece of advice type of thing? And I still responded with, like, to be honest, the biggest thing was consistency. But I could say that, but if you were to go look at my channel right now, I posted a short last week, and the week before that I posted a video, but I think it was like 2 weeks before then. What I really try and do is post once a week, no excuses, anything like that. And that could even be something as small as a YouTube short. Now, early on, I tried to do quantity, and when I was in my super, super hustle, I was doing 3 videos a week. I was doing a gear review on Monday, a podcast interview on Wednesday, and this is when they were releasing, and a video editing tutorial on Friday. What that taught me was I just like threw a whole bunch of spaghetti at the wall and was failing faster and knew what was working and what was not working. At this point in time, I know for a fact that if I do a gear review or if I post anything about video gear, audio gear on my channel, it has to be really stinking good or it's just not going to get the views. That's with the caveat of, I know that I could also get enough affiliate income from doing whatever said review of a product that outweighs whatever those views are. So like I think I have a review of the vlogging thing?
Okay.
SwitchPod. The SwitchPod. So the SwitchPod is made for vloggers. It's an amazing piece of gear, and I still use it to this day. And it's like a really sturdy, small tripod. I don't even know how many views that has on my channel now, but maybe like 3,000 or something like that. But every month I still get an affiliate check from that company from somebody using my affiliate link. For those that don't know, what that means is because I have reviewed this piece of gear and I'm basically driving traffic to said site of whatever product that is, they are giving me a commission for helping marketing their product. And something like the SwitchPod is an amazing piece of gear, completely stand by it. But that one, that video doesn't get very many views, but it's completely outweighed by the fact that this is passive income coming in month after month. Now, whether it be like $24 or like 50 or 100, it's still like, I made that video once and I'm still month after month getting something in my inbox saying like, hey, here's your affiliate for this quarter or this month. That at this point in time, I pick and choose when I do reviews of gear because I want to be able to know that I've like used it to do a review of it. And also I just know my audience isn't looking for that specific thing at this point in time, because getting back to what I was talking about earlier, the second part of that was the interviews. Interviews, I'm sure you're aware of this, really help with networking. And when I was in the beginning, I just I didn't know what I was doing with YouTube. So I went to things like Vid Summit and other different conferences, and just meeting other creators helps you out enormously in this whole journey in the creating atmosphere. So the interviews were less about the views and more about just learning from other creators, much like what you're doing right now. And the third thing was the video tutorials. So on my channel, I noticed very early on that the reviews weren't getting as much views, but they were helping pay the bills. So I definitely I would still pump them out. Interviews helped me personally in networking and just getting my name out there, and also just meeting other people. And then the video editing tutorials, I could see that if I wanted to grow at a better rate, I should probably just focus on these. So at that, there's some turning point in my channel. If you go through my videos, that you'll see some reviews, some interviews or whatever, and then you'll just start seeing Premiere Pro icon in the thumbnail, every single one. And that's kind of where the growth from my channel happened. And kind of also backtracking to what you were originally asking, the consistency that doing those three topics, I was passionate about them, but now with the video editing thing, I know that it works at this point in time. And it's something that if I put my time and effort into a video, I know it'll be worth it to me because I know it's going to get views. And that being said, I still try and put out something every week, but in this last month and probably these last 2 months, I haven't put out a video every single month. It's actually been or a video every single week. It's actually been there was one last week and then one maybe 2 weeks before that and 2 weeks before that. But in the grand context of what I was doing, I was in Dallas for a week shooting the material for AT&T. Also, I was meeting all those other creators and just getting to experience that. So I was still creating content. It just wasn't in the confines of a YouTube video. And then the other one is I've been on a pretty big campaign for an update for Adobe in Premiere Pro, and they wanted me to help produce one of their national campaigns with another creator from the Netherlands, Leela from YouTube, amazing creator. Also check her out. So I was still like creating content and putting it out. I was also creating material for Adobe's actual YouTube channel, and I created 4 videos for them. So I actually like created more content than I normally do. It's just not posting to my YouTube channel. And at this point in time, I just ended the different responsibilities that I had with these different advertisers, and I'm saying no to a lot of people because obviously my YouTube numbers are dwindling because I haven't been posting the kind of quality content that I would like to on my channel in a consistent manner. And I mean, that's the thing that started it all. If that's not a solid base, then I don't have the opportunities to go do these other things. So I've like, there's a cycle of doing sponsored content and making sure that it's of the caliber that I want, and then having that bankroll like before, having those checks come in and bankroll my time as a YouTuber creating the other YouTube videos. But at the same time, my YouTube channel is getting to the point where the ads income and things like that help just in general pay for living expenses.
You clearly have some good passive income set up and some really thriving relationships with sponsors. So when you were shooting for AT&T and Adobe, like you said, you were making videos for Adobe's YouTube channel with AT&T. So those videos were also for AT&T, or were they were not meant to be posted on your channel?
That one was Instagram, and Instagram has the cool thing now where you can collaborate. So they would post it to their regional stores, and then I would just click collaborate or whatever. So it's on their IG page and my IG page.
So YouTube has essentially been, as you put it, a foundation for a way for you to make a living, not only through your channel, but also through sponsors and companies who realize, hey, this guy's making cool stuff. We can hire him to make cool stuff for what we're doing. So you've kind of used YouTube to monetize, to network, and to really just open the door to a whole new kind of more freelance career for you, which is wonderful and beautiful. Like I think that's really what most people are looking for with YouTube, wouldn't you say? It's not necessarily to only post your YouTube channel all the time. It's more, I think people are looking for more freedom in their careers. They're looking for just sort of new opportunities that they can either choose to take or to leave. And then obviously you can post to your channel whenever you're like, all right, well, I guess I don't have any sponsorships or whatever to do today. I'm just going to focus on my own thing, grow my own brand, and then eventually other people are going to come back. And that is really awesome. And I think it's cool that you've done so much within the video editing niche. I think some people can feel like trapped within the one thing that they're doing, but you have managed to kind of turn it into a more of a freelance career. Like, was that kind of your original intention, or it sounds like you kind of just wanted to make YouTube videos and then all of a sudden these companies approach you with new gigs, and it just kind of flowed from there?
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the niche that I'm in, especially in filmmaking, photography, the quote unquote cinematic and things like that, is the idea of, I guess, authenticity, or why would somebody trust what I'm saying if I'm just a person that creates YouTube videos about video editing, as opposed to if I'm actually somebody that's like living in Los Angeles or Hollywood and creating video editing for a Hollywood show, and on the side I'm doing YouTube videos. Like, to me, it's like the second person is more of a, like, they're in it. They know what they're doing. Like I would want to learn from them. But the contrary argument to that is I was a part of that. And the only way that I could see being successful on YouTube, and because I wanted to act, like you said, I really enjoy teaching Premiere Pro and video editing. And I like creating tutorials more so than the traditional, let's have a movie come in and try and cut a movie, and then on the side, I'll do some BTS material about how I'm cutting this movie. I would much rather create content around, like, all right, how do you ingest footage to create that movie for you? And I would like to make the best video editing tutorial about how to do that. And like, that's where I stand. And when I was pursuing this, it just kind of, there was a moment in time where I could either continue on and do the freelance video editing thing to have a sustainable career, or I could double down on YouTube content creating tutorials. And I do think there is still some people, there is like a good reason to the argument of, if you're not in it, why would we want to watch something from you? But after pursuing both avenues, I would much rather learn from somebody that's devoting 100% of their time to creating whatever the tutorial is and making it in a way that's like engaging in that it sticks in your brain, rather than if it's a secondhand nature of somebody that's just like on the side creating YouTube videos. I think there's like a give and take there, but yeah, that's basically like where I'm at, and just wanting to be a creator that's creating video editing tutorials. But the bulk of my video editing at this point comes from editing my video editing tutorials. Very crazy timeline that we're living in. But that's what I like to do, and if I can make a living doing that, then I'm going to pursue
you're in it, and you know what it's like to work the day-to-day. And as somebody who has edited videos for many, many years now, one thing I like about your editing tutorials is that you do feel like a guy who has been in it for a long time. Like even me, who's been doing this forever, I always feel like, I don't know, my timeline is too messy and things take me too long. And then I watch videos from people like you, and I'm like, wow, here's a guy who actually knows how to edit. Like, I know how to edit, but there's something that, like, the cleanness to your videos, and like, yeah, just these are 3 ways to do this one thing. And I'm like, wow, he knows 3 ways to do this one thing. I've just been doing the worst way the whole time. And I think that's really valuable. And, you know, people, they tend to want to focus more on like the personality aspect of YouTube, and obviously your personality is in these videos, but you're ultimately sharing knowledge at the end of the day. And I think your entire career leading up to this has prepared you for this. And one thing I'm always recommending on this show is, you know, if somebody is unsure what they want to talk about on their YouTube channel, like what category am I even going to exist in? Often the answers come just from you living your life, and eventually you're going to find a kind of realm of knowledge that you have somehow become an expert in that maybe you didn't expect to, but you will find that as long as you're staying busy and you're doing something, eventually you're going to know something that most people don't, and maybe you can make a YouTube channel out of it, which in your case you certainly have, and you're able to make a full living off of it now.
Yeah, I would say the thing that you said about the personality was, it's tough. I would say personally, for personality, it's tough doing it in my niche, because I am very realistic in assuming that the people clicking on my videos want the quickest way possible to learn how to do X, Y, and Z with, in this case, Premiere Pro. And in YouTube, for a fair chunk of time, of the recent time, not specifically YouTube Shorts, but in recent times, their big thing was how long a viewer is watching your video. So for me, it was tough to tote that line between how long can I get people to watch this video for, and also give as much information as possible, and do it in an efficient way where somebody, like, people watching, the audience is smart. Like, if you create a video and if you have like 1:30 of introductory stuff and you don't get to the concept quick enough, they're gonna click off and watch some other video. At that same token, I don't want to be bored out of my mind creating videos. So I try and still get creative, and I want to film something and then utilize that in the tutorial. But at the same time, there's other things about video editing, and this could be any kind of software or product that you're trying to showcase a process of, like, how do you, like, for instance, if you were to do, how do you copy and paste inside Premiere Pro? Obviously, everyone's going to know how to do that, but just the concept of it is somebody's going to look up that on YouTube or in Google at some point in time. And I know if I created a video about that, I can't create like a 10-minute video about how to copy and paste inside Premiere Pro. Interesting about that, though, is I just made like a 7-minute video about copying and pasting effects in Premiere Pro, because there is like 5 different ways to do it. But the thing that's going through my head is, if somebody wants to look this up on Google or YouTube and they see my timestamp, it's like, I do not want to watch a 7-minute video about copying and pasting. And if you have watched, I'm banking on, if you have watched one of my other videos, you would come to expect how in depth I go about certain aspects of the program. And with that concept, it's tough because there's the simple copy and paste, but if you're copying and pasting effects, there's so many different ways that you can do it, and some are better than others for certain situations. So I know that if somebody watched a previous video of mine, and maybe if they see that 7-minute timestamp about copying and pasting, maybe they'll still click on the video knowing that they may pick up something that they didn't know in the first place. And then when that situation comes along, they can be like, wow, I watched this video for 7 minutes, but because I learned that one thing, now I'm going to save 1 hour of my time on video editing because I know how to do it this way. But it's tough in the days of like YouTube Shorts and TikToks and all these other things. Like, how do you make searchable content that's quick enough for people to get, where when they're searching for it, they want that? And then also, like, how do you incorporate personality into the mix so you kind of stand out from other creators? And then also, like, create videos that people are actually going to want to watch. It's like a trifecta or a smorgasbord of all these things that I think of as a tutorial creator. And that's where it's very different in my realm versus, say, somebody like a Mr. Beast or something like that, where I think it's very concept driven and personality driven, or like an Emma Chamberlain or something like that. I am very aware of the audience of my content and what they would come to expect when viewing one of my videos. And I try to at least get like 30 seconds in there of my face or something personal, so I can at least differentiate myself from other YouTubing creators. On that note, I would also like to say that, like, it's not that I'm also, just by the nature of YouTube, in competition with other like tutorializing YouTubers, but at the same time, I don't like to compete with other ones. And it's also like how do you come up with concepts that another creator hasn't already created a video of? And like, I'm actually friends with a lot of the other people that do Premiere Pro tutorials. I like all of them, and I would much rather have all of us grow than just have like one person grow because of one thing or another.
I think that's always a good attitude to have when you're willing to branch out as opposed to kind of just focus in and do only your own thing and not talk to other people in your space, because you can I think you can learn a lot just by watching people's videos that are also in your space, but ultimately you tend to learn the most by actually talking to them and kind of taking in what they're like as a person. And I always like it when people have an attitude like that of I want to meet people and learn from them, and kind of a rising tide floats all boats sort of mentality, versus the opposite, which is much more competitive, shall we say. That's a beautiful thing. So do you have one last piece of advice that you would give to anybody trying to start a channel? Obviously, you said consistency is the most important thing, which I agree with. That often comes up on this podcast, but maybe one piece of advice for somebody who is just getting started.
Yeah, I would actually refer back to a speech or a talk that I went to at Vid Summit by Matt Pat that has what his game theory and what's the other ones that he does, food theory. That the person behind that is Matt Pat, for the audience that doesn't know. Very big YouTuber. He had this speech at Vid Summit where he was talking about the decisions that you make early on in your YouTube career dictate the doors that open and the doors that close the further you progress in your career. And the common example of this is having the name of your YouTube channel be your physical name, or is the name of your YouTube channel like an entity or something like that. Where like if people, let's say in the beginning, if I would have called my YouTube channel like Video Editing Central, that would open it up to having different faces of my brand be a part of the whole thing. At this point in time, if I want to create content and progress and do all of that, the channel name is me, and my face, like I was saying before, is either, most of the time it's speaking in a microphone to you, but sometimes it's in front of the camera and you can see my face. Whereas if you wanted to build it kind of like a business with other people involved, you open yourself up to having a bigger scope of other people carrying on the burden as you progress. That is very much just one sort of example. And the reason that I bring this up is how it's helped me, not necessarily from going and hearing that speech. I was just relating to it because early on, I went to the bank. I got I filled out my material, registered for a single member LLC. I got a specific bank account for my business. I went and got a specific credit card, and I made contact with an accountant like very early on before I was even having any money coming in from the YouTube realm. And the reason I bring this up is because it's these decisions early on that have like exponentially helped me save time in the future. Another big one was building a website. And it took me so long to build my website. But the thing is, I didn't talk about this, but one of the biggest incomes for me is my presets and bundles and other things like that for other video creators that I've created for things like Premiere Pro. And I wouldn't have had that e-commerce space available to me and have it set up in a way that's kind of efficient for me to create a product, put it on there, and just start selling. I wouldn't have that unless I took the time for like 6 months just really building the foundation to what I knew my YouTube channel could become, and at this point what I hope it becomes in the future. And all of those decisions to kind of think in the like 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, of regardless of if it's YouTube or some other social platform, if I'm treating this like a business, how and what does that look like? And making those decisions early on to basically help my future self not have to worry about certain things like taxes and other things like that. Like just having a QuickBooks account and other things like that are like with just tax season happening, it's so much nicer to know what to do when you're purchasing something and knowing like having everything split out. And then when you're just the simple concept of when you do get a sponsor, when you invoice that sponsor, that like, are you chasing down 1099s? What's a 1099? Certain things like that. Knowing and how, like, trying to like grasp those concepts early on, or just at least Google searching them just so they're in the back of your mind will help you out as a creator further down the line. Trust me. So in this context, I would say if you are planning on doing YouTube full-time or any kind of creator thing full-time, for sure, set up a either single member LLC or whatever it is that's good for your situation. Do the research, set yourself up like a business, get a specific bank account that is a business bank account, specific credit card, and start tracking your finances separately. Also with something like a QuickBooks or whatever other programs that are out there, because they will help you in the long run keep everything organized. Now that being said, there's also the other flip side of that, of like when you go to invest in other things, like say it's equipment or whatever, ask yourself like, all right, is this something that I can use for X, Y, and Z? A good case in point is a computer. Like I maybe would have went a little bit more cheap on my video editing computer, but at this point in time in my career, I like make video editing tutorials. So I got like the new monitor and also like the best computer that I can get, because that saves me so much time. And yes, it is expensive in the front, but in the long run, the amount of time that I can save from making that purchase now is like, because I've already been doing this for a while, I can already see or know the exponential amount of time that I would have saved by not having loading screens and just trying to sift through content and everything with a lag. That's my specific concept. Yeah, exactly. And the write-off. Again, coming back to basically writing down everything, or just having a good knowledge of how to run your content creation as a business as opposed to the creative end. And then on top of that, it's just continuing with however you want to continue your content creation creatively. But I would not disregard the business portion of being a creator.
Yeah, and sage advice. You know, it sounds like your advice essentially boils down to know who you want to be and kind of how you want to be from a legal and business perspective, and just kind of be aware that that is going to open certain doors and close certain doors depending on what exactly you are trying to do. Well, everybody, this has been Javier Mercedes. Javier, thank you so much for joining me. It's been super interesting getting your perspective on things, and I think the tutorial side of YouTube has always been a fascinating one to me, especially as somebody who is a self-taught video editor. People who do what you do are particularly important to people like me. So just want to say thank you for that, and also thank you to you, whoever you are watching this this video or listening to it. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye, everybody.